Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC, your ultimate hub for all things Liverpool. Today we've got huge updates straight from Anfield, from Marc Guehi's transfer twist to Alexander Isak's shock warning and Arne Slot facing a massive striker dilemma. Stick around, Reds. This one's going to be explosive. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. Liverpool eyeing moves for 3. Marc Guehi alternatives. Liverpool eye alternatives as Guehi. Wait continues. Liverpool's pursuit of Marc Guehi has taken another twist. The Crystal Palace captain was close to joining Anfield on deadline day only, for Palace to end negotiations at the last minute. That setback has left Liverpool considering whether to wait until next summer to get their man on a free transfer or move on to other targets entirely, according to Rousing the Cop. Reports suggest Liverpool remain confident that Guehi is keen on a move to Merseyside, but the club cannot afford to be complacent. Available for nothing or for a small fee in January, Guehi will surely be alerting interest from clubs across Europe. The danger of being beaten to a priority signing is real. Murillo presents aggressive option. Before the Guehi links gathered pace, Liverpool were already monitoring Nottingham Forest's Murillo. The 21-year-old Brazilian has been one of the most impressive young defenders in the Premier League. His blend of strength, anticipation, and technical ability has quickly turned him into a star at the City ground. Murillo will not come cheap, with Forest certain to demand a premium, but he offers proven top-flight experience and could anchor Liverpool's back line for years. He is described as an aggressive defender and looks destined for a step up. Van Hecke fits the profile. Another name under consideration is Jan-Paul van Hecke of Brighton. The Dutch international is entering the final 2 years of his contract and could be available at a price Liverpool deem reasonable. Van Hecke has already formed an international partnership with Virgil van Dijk, which could make him an appealing candidate. Brighton, however, are famously tough negotiators, and Liverpool would need to be prepared to meet their valuation. Scalvini offers European flair. The third option is Giorgio Scalvini, one of Italy's most promising young defenders. At just 21, he has already played a key role for Atalanta, helping them lift the Europa League. Injuries have slowed his progress, but his potential ceiling is high. Liverpool's sporting director, Richard Hughes, has used his Italian contacts to great effect in recent summers, bringing in Federico Chiesa and Giovanni Leone. A move for Scalvini would fit that trend, potentially setting up an all-Italian partnership. In the future, for now, all eyes will remain on Guehi. Whether Liverpool wait patiently or act decisively with one of these alternatives will be one of the key storylines heading into 2026. Eddie Howe sends Alexander Isak warning to Liverpool after debut plan. Revealed Eddie Howe admitted Newcastle's concerns about Alexander Isak's match fitness levels before his move to Liverpool. Alexander Isak could be in line to make his debut for Liverpool this weekend when the Reds travel to Burnley, but Eddie Howe has sent a warning regarding his former striker. The Swede left Newcastle United in a British record €125 deal on transfer deadline day, bringing an end to a summer-long saga. The 25-year-old made his first appearance since the final day of last season during the September international break, featuring for the final 18 minutes as a substitute in Sweden's 2-0 loss to Kosovo. Having been determined to leave Newcastle during the summer, Isak missed their preseason clash with Celtic before skipping their tour of the Far East. He then trained alone, away from the group, following the Magpies' return to Tyneside, having trained on an individual basis at former club Real Sociedad, while his teammates were away in Asia. The Chronicle reports that Newcastle staff had concerns regarding Isak's fitness levels as a result, but had put together a plan for the striker in the event of him remaining at St. James's Park. Their expectation was that it would take him until after the next international break in October to get back to his best levels. And in previously unreleased quotes from Howe, speaking on the eve of Isak's eventual move to Liverpool, the Newcastle boss admitted that the striker's lack of match fitness was a concern. Alex had been working individually with our sports science department, and they have been getting him fit, he said. But in terms of how match fit he is and what he's actually done, it is difficult to judge. Match fitness is very different. That, how long he plays for, is for Alex and Sweden manager John Dahl Tomasson to decide. Tomasson would later reveal that he had no plans to do stupid things with Isak following his disjointed pre-season. Meanwhile, the striker himself admitted after completing his move to Liverpool that it would take time for him to get back to his best levels. "Yeah, of course," Isak responded when asked by club media if he's aiming for Liverpool's game against Burnley on 14 September to be his first appearance in a red shirt. "I think that's the ambition. However, I've had a tricky summer where I haven't played any games and I've had restricted training, so I think that's one to judge and to analyze where I am at and how much I am ready to give. But I certainly want to play as soon as possible." Marc Guehi's a huge miss for Liverpool. I now fear moves from Chelsea and Manchester City. Liverpool failed in a transfer deadline day pursuit of Marc Guehi, with remains a Crystal Palace player inside the final 12 months of his contract at Selhurst. Park-Emile Heskey admits he is wary of the prospect of Liverpool now losing out on Marc Guehi in January to Manchester City or Chelsea. The Premier League champions had a 35-minute deal for England international Guehi breakdown at the 11th hour after Crystal Palace pulled the plug after failing to find a replacement before the 7 p.m. cut-off on transfer deadline day on September 1st. Liverpool are unlikely to return in the January window for Guehi, knowing they can bring the centre-back in on a free transfer next summer. Heskey, though, feels that might leave the Reds open to losing out to City and Chelsea, who may be able to agree a cut-price deal with Palace so the South Londoners avoid losing their captain for nothing next summer. "Guehi will be a huge miss," Heskey said. "He's arguably one of the best and most composed centre-backs in the league. It will be a big miss, but how much more could they have pushed if Palace didn't want to or have to sell? All you can do is put more money on the table, but then you're moving outside of your scope of what is right for a player who is in his last year. Come January, it will be a different proposition. There's no doubt that he wants to come to Liverpool. Now there will always be the possibility of a team hijacking the move in January, especially Chelsea and Manchester City, who can gazump anyone. But Liverpool is an institution, and I'm sure they're fairly confident they can get the deal done." Heskey, speaking to ASODS.com, added, "A lot of people have spoken about how dignified Guehi has been with his situation, and that's how it should be. Guehi has been fantastic. I think it's credit to him that he has continued playing a bit like other England players have over the years when they have been linked with moves away, such as Wayne Rooney. I'm always going to be happy when a player of that ilk, Alexander Isak, and pedigree comes to Liverpool. Of course it could have been handled differently and better, especially as it panned out in front of our eyes in public. Arne Slot faces difficult Alexander Isak decision as Liverpool consider striker change. Alexander Isak is set for a Liverpool debut at Burnley on Sunday afternoon, but how long should the striker be given? Long wait is almost over. A full 2 months since it was first confirmed Liverpool were very much interested in signing Alexander Isak. The $125 million arrival from Newcastle United is now ready to pull on a red shirt for the first time. Well, a green one to be more precise, with Arne Slot's side donning their new third kit for the short trip to promoted Burnley on Sunday afternoon. Having not featured at all for Newcastle since the end of last season, Isak was given his first minutes as a late substitute in Sweden's 2-0 World Cup qualifying loss in Kosovo on Monday night. But how long should the striker be given at the weekend? Paul Gorst having played less than 20 minutes since May, it's fair to say it might take some time for Alexander Isak to get up to the sort of speed that has made him a British record transfer. At 125 million, Sweden international Isak was a second-half substitute on Monday as Kosovo won 2-0 in their World Cup qualifier, and that decision was taken after consultation between the national team's medical department and their counterparts at Liverpool, with Arne Slot also in dialogue with manager Jon Dahl Tomasson. But as the Reds get set to do battle in 3 competitions in September in the Premier League, Champions League, and Carabao Cup, before another international break in October, how much time should Isak realistically be afforded? Fortunately, the former Newcastle United man is not entering a side who have struggled for goals or creativity in their opening 3 games so far. The Premier League champions have scored 8 in fixtures with Bournemouth, Newcastle, and Arsenal, with Hugo Ekitike in particular assuming the striking mantle with aplomb. It means Isak doesn't need to be thrust into the action prematurely, but with Atletico Madrid and Everton to visit Anfield next week, might this Sunday's trip to Burnley represent the most straightforward of the 3 games in 6 days? Anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes might be ideal for the 25-year-old at Turf Moor as Slot and his staff go about getting some match fitness into the legs of the 125 million striker. The sooner they achieve that, the quicker he will begin to repay the fee, so while the lack of action over the last 4 months would suggest it is wise to display caution, this weekend is the best opportunity for Isak to get some meaningful game time in what is a busy upcoming week. Ian Doyle Liverpool supporters have had to wait a long time for the dream signing of Alexander Isak to become reality, so they won't mind hanging on just a little bit longer to see the striker in action for his new club. While there are no concerns over injury for Isak, his match sharpness will understandably be nowhere near usual levels, having played for barely 20 minutes since the end of last season. Liverpool's rival told to swoop for Marc Guehi as Reds take transfer gamble. Liverpool missed out on signing Marc Guehi from Crystal Palace on transfer deadline day when Oliver Glasner pulled the plug because he couldn't bring in a replacement. Former Chelsea winger Florent Malouda says Liverpool could lose out on Marc Guehi again next summer, tipping the Stamford Bridge side to enter the race for the centre-back. Guehi was blocked from joining Liverpool on transfer deadline day after Crystal Palace failed to find a suitable replacement for manager Oliver Glasner. But in 2026, the England international could move on a free when his contract expires. Liverpool brought in Giovanni Leone from Parma in the summer, but also wanted to sign Guehi too. Instead, Joe Gomez was kept around to ensure that the Reds had enough numbers in defense. Arne Slot is expected to go back in for Guehi next year, though. Signing him without a transfer fee would represent a coup, given that the 25-year-old has established himself at international level under Thomas Tuchel. Guehi scored for England earlier this week in an impressive 5-0 win over Serbia in World Cup qualifying. Heading into the tournament in the US, Mexico, and Canada, he looks in line to be a regular starter. However, Malouda believes that while Liverpool is confident Guehi will still want to move to Anfield in the future, other clubs, including Chelsea, could enter the race. Marc Guehi would be a great addition for Chelsea, he told Boyle Sports. I don't know what the conditions would be, but I think it's also about how badly he wants to come to Chelsea. That's the way you have to look at it, because he's a talented player. He showed with Palace that he's able to deliver and perform. Now it's more about how you approach a player like this and have a real plan for him to make an impact in your first team. I think the goal would be to increase the competition in the defense and to bring in a player who plays for the national team. A lot of things could happen in January based on that. For example, if Chelsea qualify for the Champions League knockout stage, that's also something that could attract players, so I think he could be a good pick for Chelsea because he would have no problem settling in. Guehi will face Liverpool later this month in the Premier League when Slot's side visits Selhurst Park. He previously played for Chelsea, who let him go as a young player, feeling that he wasn't ready for the first team.